Okay, here we go. So we're gonna start by just learning how to turn some of our simple shapes into forms. And let's see, is that good zoomed in wise? Not too far away, not too close. Okay, let me see, got my little notes here. Okay, first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a sphere. And I'm not going to do any shading on it, but I'm going to show you how you can use contour lines to kind of show its form a little bit without using shading. So we're going to be drawing 2 circles, and then this is where I'm also going to be showing sketching. So if you don't know how to sketch, this is how you're going to learn. So we're using our 2H pencil, and I'm going to draw 2 circles, and what I'm going to do sketching wise is I'm just using my pencil real lightly, and I'm kind of picking it up and putting it down over and over again so that I'm getting kind of a nice averaged out circle. Okay, so it's a little wonky at the bottom, that's okay. And so I want to do two of those circles. Okay, so I'm going to try and show form without doing any shading. Okay. So it's very similar to the latitude and longitude lines on a globe, okay? So the first one is I'm gonna kind of show the curvature of the sphere on a diagonal. So what I mean by that is, let's say I've got a light that's kind of shining down here, and it's shining right on the top of that sphere. So I'm drawing an oval-ish kind of here, but really the name of that is an ellipse. We're going to be using ellipses a lot today, okay? So I'm going to start that there, and then I'm just going to kind of follow that ellipse over and over again and just kind of make like slices in my sphere. But I want those lines to curve around to show that that sphere is round in more ways than one, that it's like round all the way around it. Okay, so there's one way. And then the other way is doing your lines kind of vertically. Okay, so you won't have one straight up and down. I mean, you could. So, I mean, I guess maybe you want to give yourself kind of a guideline, divide that in half there. So that one's straight up and down. Then every line to the right will gradually get more and more curved. So I'm going to draw a line kind of like that. Then a line going to the right that's a little more curved. And then a little more, and so on. Then I'm going to go over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to do the same thing, but they all curve to the left. So just a little bit curved, a little more, then a little more. Okay? So that's how you can kind of show form on a circle without shading it. So you give kind of the illusion of a sphere. So, spheres. Okay? Don't know if it'd have an apostrophe. All right, next one is we're gonna work on a cone, which our base is a triangle. So we're gonna go from a triangle to a cone, okay? And we're gonna break that down into simple shapes, okay? So cone is round on the bottom, so it has a circle on the bottom. Now, I'm gonna ask you guys to do kind of an exercise here. And I want you to get your fingers, and I want you to put them together and make a circle in front of your face using your hands, okay? So I want everyone to stop what they're doing and do this right now. Okay, so you've got your circle here, and I'm showing you how an ellipse is actually, it's a circle that just gets manipulated in space, okay? So we're looking at the space in between our fingers and our thumbs, right? And it's making a circle. So you're gonna keep your hands like this, but you're gonna tilt your thumbs towards your nose. And then you're gonna watch that space. You're just gonna keep doing it slow. And you're gonna watch that space that's in between your thumbs and then even like your other fingers and start looking at how does that shape change? Like what happened to it? Is everybody seeing it? Okay, what's happening? Okay, I know you're seeing it, and I know you feel kind of silly, but it's going from a circle, so, and then if I tilt it, what does it look like is happening to that space? It's getting smushed, exactly, okay? So that's what an ellipse is. It's a circle that's just being manipulated in space, okay? So that's what happens to our cone because we're seeing it standing up. We're not seeing it from the bottom. If we saw it from the bottom, it'd be a perfect circle. We're seeing it on its side. Okay, so the base of a cone has to start out as an ellipse. So I'm going to start by making that smushed circle an ellipse. Okay, and I'm just kind of being sketchy with it. Kind of like that. Now I want to find the middle point. So I want just as much ellipse on the left-hand side as I have on the right-hand side. So it's going to be kind of somewhere along right here. And I want to draw a straight line going through that ellipse and beyond. So, and however tall you want your cone to be. I kind of have to stop before, unless I wanted it to go into my sphere there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take and draw the sides of my cone, which means I have to go on the outside of my ellipse on each side, and I need to bring it all the way up to the top point. So what I'm going to do is, it's easier for me personally to go from the top of this line down, but you can go the other direction if you need to. Sometimes I start this way and then I pick my pencil up and go for this way and I kind of meet in the middle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the top here to the side of the ellipse, and then I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Okay. All right. And now if I wanted to, I can leave this here and it shows my guidelines, or I can get rid of my guidelines out and really push its form, which makes it even look more simple. So what I'm going to do is take out that middle guideline, and I'm going to erase the top of the ellipse and leave the bottom there. So what I ended with, I should have a triangle with a cone on, or with a kind of rounded bottom. Okay, let's try a pyramid. Okay, so what shape did I say was the bottom of the pyramid? It's a square. Okay, now the problem is we are not going to draw a square straight on. It's almost like an ellipse again. It's the square that is like morphed into space. Okay, so we're going to be drawing more of like a diamond shape and like a real wide one. So how I want to start that is I want to draw basically like the letter V, but really wide. Okay, so a lot wider than it is tall. So kind of like that, a very obtuse angle. Is that the right word, guys? It's been a long time since I've been in geometry. Obtuse, okay. Okay, very wide angle. Just start it like that, pointing downwards. Now all we have to do is just make sure that this back line, I'm going to make a parallel line to this one and a parallel line to this one. So I'll start with this one first. That starts here, and you guys can just watch first and then, okay. So there's my parallel line. It's going to mimic this one, and it's going to end kind of where that angle was. And then I'm just going to mimic this line also. Okay, so like a diamond on its side. Okay, and there's technically two separate ways that we could draw this. We could draw it where we could see the bottom, but we're gonna, or where you can't really see the bottom and you can just see the top. So to do that, We're gonna draw it like the cone where we can't see the bottom. So this bottom angle here, that first one that we started with, that's where I'm gonna start that guideline like I did with my cone. So I'm gonna bring that line straight up. Okay, and I can almost cheat and just be like, there's a pyramid. Okay, but I'm gonna extend it out a little bit more. Okay, so I've got that line here. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did for the cone, but I'm just gonna go to these two corners. So there, and there. Okay, and now because this pyramid edge is coming towards us, I wanna keep that guideline there, but then I wanna erase these other back too. We're making that pyramid solid. And my eraser kind of smooched, so looks a little trashy now. Okay, so then you've got a cone. Whoops, it'd be good if I knew how to spell pyramid. Why am I doing RI? Is it RY? Really? Do I really not know? I'm blanking out on it real bad. It just looks so wrong. It's right. Pyramid. Pyramid. There it was. Pyramid. Blanking out really bad. Okay, next. Okay, we're gonna draw a cube, and there are so many different ways that we can draw a cube. So we'll start with the one that we're most familiar with, and then we'll do kind of some different ones. Okay, so this is where we're gonna start a square, and now we're gonna make all of our forms. Okay, so the first way, and probably the most common way, is you start with a square, and then you just run parallel lines off of each corner, and you just, depending on where, like what direction you want this cube to go, depends on what direction those parallel lines in. So I'm just gonna go to the right. So I'm gonna make some diagonal lines off of each corner. They should all be parallel to each other, and they should all be about the same length. And then anytime that cube-wise, anytime that you need to make a vertical or a horizontal line, they're always vertical and they're always straight horizontal. They never have any angles in them. So it's straight up and down, vertical, and straight across horizontal. So that should be the most common way to do that. Okay? If I wanted, just real quickly, if I wanted it to change directions, I'll just show you. Draw that square, and then I just have those diagonals go in the opposite direction. Okay. Okay. So next one is you're going to draw your square. Okay. Then you're going to draw another kind of smaller square offset. Now let me show you, so you watch and then you do what I do. So you're just going to draw another square, kind of offset and behind. So like that. Okay, so I drew a square, and then I drew another square that's kind of offset. So it's just a little bit different. And then I'm just going through and connecting all of my corners. So these two connect. These two connect. And then these two connect. And then these two connect. So here's where maybe I have a see-through box or a see-through cube. Okay, and again, if I just change the position of that second square, I could have it going in the opposite direction. Okay, now we're gonna do a couple of perspective. We're gonna do 1 point perspective and we're gonna do 2 points. So 1 point perspective, is you're gonna draw your square, and I'm gonna go a little higher here. So I'll have 1 point here and 2 point here. Okay, so I've got my square. And then off to the, let's just say off to the right-hand side, and just off to the right-hand side, you're gonna draw a little dot. Okay, and then the top corner and the bottom corner, you're gonna sketch a line that go to that dot. Okay, and then I'm gonna choose, if I want this to stay cube-wise, I want to draw another vertical line that's about the same width or same dimension as this. And then I can erase out that dot and those guidelines. So that's 1 point perspective, 1 point. This would be like if we were looking at boxes, this one would be at eye level. Okay, we don't see a top and we don't see a bottom. It's right at eye level. Okay, now we're gonna do 2 point perspective. It's a little different, okay? So for 2 point perspective, 2 point, you're gonna draw a line. So this one we're starting a little different. So you draw a line. And we'll be doing multiple of these because we can change the view, okay? So draw a line, and then you have a dot out to the right and a dot out to the left. Okay, now you follow kind of the same technique that we did here, but for both sides. Okay. And then you do the same thing. Get in your verticals and kind of end that square. And then you can kind of erase that out. Okay, so these are at eye level. You can't see the top or the bottom. Okay? You guys got that? Am I going at a pretty okay pace? Am I going too slow? Nope, doing good? Okay. All right, so now let's kind of go to where you could see the top and the bottom of the box, and I'm gonna start with on the bottom because it's just easier for my brain to start that way. So I'm gonna have 2 more separate ones here. I'm gonna start here, so it could be, you know, view from the bottom, All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw a square, kind of going back to where we were here. And then I'm just gonna change the angle of these boxes. So all of these are from the top. We can see the top of the boxes, okay? So if I go to this upper arrow here, this is like what we've been doing. Okay, so I just repeated that. This is view from top, view from the top. Because we can see the top of the box. So that means that the box is below our eye level. So what does that mean if the box is, darn it, above our eye level? Then we can see the bottom of it. Sorry, I don't have control of, okay. So now we're gonna be able to see view from the bottom. So all we're doing is we're changing the angle of these. So instead of them angling upwards, we're just gonna angle them downwards. And then we're kind of changing which corner. So we lose this one because we're not going to see it anymore, and then we're gaining these. So we're kind of flipping where those corners are that we're coming out from. Okay, and then same thing. Horizontal goes straight across, vertical goes straight up and down. Okay, so view from the bottom. And you can do that with all of your shapes. So like if you wanted to go in with a cone, You can do that ellipse here. And then you just don't erase that out. Now you can see the bottom of that ellipse. Or if you wanted to do that pyramid, you just kind of change that up. You don't have to do these. And now your pyramid looks like that, okay? So does everyone kind of understand that? Okay, all right. Okay, last one, cylinder. So let's go over here. And I'm gonna say this is pretty much like a circle plus a rectangle is how we're gonna talk about a cylinder, okay? So to start that, it's gonna be very much like the cone. So we're gonna start with that bottom ellipse. So I'm gonna sketch that out. I wanna find my middle point. So even amount of ellipse on each side. Okay, now I want to make a parallel line to this on the left and the right hand side coming out from the edges of my ellipse. So I want to try to make sure it's equal space all the way through. Equal space. And I want to end all those lines at this around the same length. And I want the top. You all right? Okay. So now I'm going to also finish this with an ellipse as well. So where the top of that ellipse kind of goes above those lines and the bottom of the ellipse comes below and kind of mimics that line there. And then I can kind of take out my guidelines. So I can take out this middle guideline. And I want to leave the full ellipse there. And then on the bottom ellipse, I want to take the top part of it out because we just made that cylinder solid and that's in the back. We don't see it anymore. Okay? Okay. All right, so now we're also going to look at, ooh, hope nobody had anything, it was Adidas bag, hope nothing was breakable in there. Okay, so now we're going to look at kind of, we did this point perspective. We're going to do this with the cylinder too so we can learn how we would draw a cylinder on its side, okay? So because we're looking at a cylinder on its side, so it's not, if we do that like circle deal again, if a cylinder is sitting up and down like a can, then the circle is like flat away from us, so it's an ellipse. So if I set the can or a cylinder in front of me, what shape am I going to start with? An ellipse or in a circle? Circle. I'm going to start with a circle. Good. Okay. So we're going to start with a circle. So sketch that one out. And then kind of like what we did up here for a 1 point perspective, or even 2 point, it doesn't even matter, but we're just going to do the 1 point. I'm going to draw a dot over to the right hand side, and then I'm going to draw a line from the bottom of my circle to the top of my circle going to that dot. So like that. And like that. Okay. Now to finish off that backhand part of the cylinder, I'm going to draw another circle, but I need to make sure that it doesn't go past either of these lines. So it's a lot smaller. This is, you're showing it kind of disappearing into the distance. Okay. So I'm going to draw a circle. It's a lot smaller. It stays within those guidelines. And then I can kind of erase that dot, those extra lines out. And then to give the illusion that the cylinder is three-dimensional, I'll take away this back line here. And then there's my cylinder on its side. Okay? So let's say maybe it looks like a toilet paper tube, maybe it's, or a PVC pipe, maybe it's got a little bit of an edge to it on the inside, all I would need to do is just draw another smaller circle on the inside of it, and that kind of gives it a lip. Okay, so now it kind of makes it look more of like a tube. Okay. All right, how's everybody doing? Doing pretty good? Okay. All right, so there's all the different ways that we can make shapes into forms. Now we need to start looking at space. How can these shapes work in space? What does space mean, and how do we achieve that via illusion? Okay, so we're going to achieve that via overlapping and underlapping. So I'm going to go to my presentation here real quick and show you what I mean by that. So you guys can see here that you can get super technical with this stuff, okay? Like we could have drawn X's in our ellipses to find the exact middle point. And okay, so does everyone see how complicated you can get? People who work in architecture and who work in drafting, this is what they do. They have to be precise and exact because people have to build stuff off of their drawings, okay? All right, so this is what we're gonna do. So now we're gonna take all the forms that we just learned how to draw, and we're gonna figure out how do we create a sense of space by overlapping and underlapping, okay? All right, so what I do when I draw things that are overlapping and underlapping is I find the thing that is in the back or that I want to be the furthest back, and I draw that first. So what form here looks like it's the furthest back in space? The square or the what? The rectangle. Yeah, it's because why? Yeah, it's behind everything. Yeah, so I'm going to draw that first and draw everything else on top of it. Okay? So here we go. So I'm going to start with my rectangle, and I'm just going to be real sketchy. Okay? So rectangle. You put this light down here. Maybe you guys can see that better. Okay, rectangle. Here we go. Then where, do you guys remember where the circle was?
On top.
It was on top. Okay? So then I'm going to go ahead and just draw the circle kind of sitting on top here. So I'm going to draw my shapes first, and then I'm going to start turning them into forms. Okay, do you remember what form was to the left? Triangle. It was that, well, yeah, we're going to draw a triangle, but it was a cone. Yeah. So the triangle, it's in front of the rectangle, so it's going to go lower. The bottom of that triangle is going to go lower than this rectangle, and it ends right about here. So I'm going to draw that rectangle in like, or excuse me, triangle in like that. And then what was the form that was on the right? It was a cylinder. Yeah. So this one is going to be a little harder to sketch. We can just put a circle in, or a couple of circles in, and then we'll turn it into, or we'll just start with a circle and then we'll turn it into its form. So it comes even further out. So the bottom of that circle needs to be lower than the triangle. And it's going to take up quite a bit of space. So it's going to be a pretty big circle because it's going to look like it's pretty close. It's going to look like it's a lot closer than everything else. And I'm overemphasizing that than in the drawing, and that's fine. Okay. So let's go ahead and start trying to first take some lines out that we don't need anymore, and then start turning things into form. So what we don't need anymore are these two bottom corners of the rectangle. Things are in front of it now. So those can just go away. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish the rectangle and it's going off to the right-hand side. So I'm going to use this technique with my rectangle by just going off of, but really I only need to go off of these two corners here. So I'm going to make them parallel, and since it's a rectangle, I want this to be a shorter line than this is. So there, and that's one, I can draw it going through my sphere, and then I can erase it later. Then here's my vertical. Your verticals are always vertical, and then your horizontals are always horizontal. I can draw straight through that sphere, and then, or that circle, and then I can just take that away. Okay? All right, now let's go ahead and work on this cone. So really the only thing I need to add into here is the base of this triangle is kind of a halfway point. So half of the cylinder, or half of the ellipse should go above that line, and half of the ellipse should go under that line. Okay, and really then all I need to keep is the bottom part of that ellipse. So basically I just kind of came in and did a curved bottom on that triangle. Okay, now let's turn this into a cylinder that's on its side. Okay, it doesn't go too far, well, I made this a lot bigger in proportion than everything else, so this one's gonna look a little bit different than our picture here. Okay, so I'm gonna make that dot, probably in like the top, like instead of it being to the right and right to the side, I'm gonna go to the right and like up. I'm gonna change my angle, and then I'm gonna go from the top of my circle to that point. And then the way that this line works is it's gonna kind of go from that bottom part of that circle back. Okay. They want this to look like a tube. So then I need to just draw another circle here on the inside, just a little bit smaller, and I want to try to make sure it's equal sizing. I got a little bit larger over here. And then I'm gonna finish that backhand by, it technically has another circle in here. So if I'm practicing on drawing nice, perfect circles, I'm gonna draw that one in there, and then now it's time to erase my guidelines. So now I can get rid of that dot. I can get rid of these lines here. I wanna make sure that this part of the circle, that curve matches this curve as much as possible. And then you have a straight side and a straight side, so you kind of have two corners there. And then I can take out the rest of that back circle. Okay, just like that. How'd you guys do? Did okay? Okay. All right, because now you've got another little challenge here. Okay, on your own, see these? Okay, how are they harder to draw? Why are they harder to draw? Well, don't worry about the shading. They're clipping into each other. Yeah, they're like going into each other. Okay, so they're a lot more difficult to draw. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is, see these? Okay, so what's this? Cylinder. What's this? Pyramid. And what's this? Okay, see how these three are pieced together? I want you, don't worry about this top part. but just finish the pyramid out. I want you to draw these 3 shapes as you see it, the best that you can. What shape would you personally think you should start with first?
Cylinder.
And why? Why did you say cylinder?
The biggest part there, there's 2 things that clip into it.
Yeah, like it's like right in the middle. That kind of sets your base tone, and then that helps you figure out where your pyramid and your cone goes. So just real quick, I want you to be real sketchy with it. If you run out of room on one side of the paper, flip it over and try another. Keep it small. Start with your cylinder first. Do it the way that we have been practicing. Autumn, do you need to go to the nurse, hon? Okay, keep your head up. Okay, so this cylinder is a little different because we can see the bottom of it. So just reverse on how you take away out your guidelines. So start with your cylinder first. Then you choose whether you want to go to the cone or the pyramid. And I just want you to try, and you don't take a ton of time on it, but I want you to try, and then we'll do it together really quick, okay? So just concentrate on these 3. And then just really look at like how angles and curves and stuff like that change. And notice that this is from a drawing. A person went and did these one by one and erased out what they didn't need anymore after they've made it 3-dimensional. Hey guys, I'll just be kind of coming around. I just want you to try for right now. So if you've got like your hand raised, you're kind of struggling, just try. We're gonna go through it. I still have my demo video going on, so if any of you like come back and watch it, it's just gonna be this like long pause in there. So I just want you to try. I know, Oscar, you're probably in like the worst spot in the whole place. Yeah. I wish I could have had say in how this room was designed, and I definitely would have put the screen there, not over there. And the board. I would have flipped.
Over there, where the, there's a towel thing.
Yeah, let's put everything over there where none of you guys can sit. That makes a lot of sense. Alright, just try, guys. Just take a crack at it. Don't spend too long on it. Doesn't have to be too perfect. So my suggestion is to just draw them the way we've been drawing, overlap them like we did just a second ago on all those other shapes, and then figure out how to make it look like they're kind of cutting into each other. Save that for last. Okay, just save that part for last. Okay. All right, guys, I just wanted it to be real quick, okay? So now I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you guys how I would do it on my side here. Okay, so I'm gonna move my paper over real quick. Okay, so here's how I would go about breaking this up simple and then just kind of figuring it out. Okay, so like I said, I would start with a cylinder first. So like we learned how, I'm gonna start with the bottom of the cylinder. I want to find that kind of middle point. Then I want to make my two sides parallel. And then I want to make my top ellipse. Okay, now I want to take out some of my guidelines. So I don't need this middle one anymore, but I need the full ellipse down here. And I need to take out the bottom part of the ellipse here so I can see this cylinder from the bottom. Okay, now I just need to overlap my shapes. So I've got a pyramid and I've got a cone. So what the cone, I'm just gonna start by making a triangle that points down. Okay, then I'm gonna change it to the cone. So half of my ellipse would go above, half of my ellipse would go below the base of that. Okay, then I can take out some of my guidelines. I don't need the corner of that cylinder in there anymore. I don't need the base of that triangle, and I don't need that first ellipse. So I'm going to come in here and kind of fix that up a little bit. Okay, so now I have a cone and my cylinder, they overlap each other, but I have to kind of show that this is kind of hugging the bottom and that this is coming up from the top. So I need to kind of change my angles a little bit. So from here, from this line, that angle doesn't really change all that much. It can kind of stay there. It's more like down here that I have to kind of figure out. So from this line, the cone kind of needs to extend out a little bit more, like this. And then I bring that line down in there like that. So it's like I kind of added another little sliver on there. And now it should look like it's connected. Did that happen? Did I achieve that? You guys see it? Okay. So now let's work on the pyramid. So to start the pyramid, remember I talked about making that kind of diamond shape. And so the top of this diamond is going to be shorter than the cylinder in total. So I'm going to start just by kind of drawing my pyramid like that. And so from this corner, it kind of angles like this too. And that's going to stop there. So I can already... Okay. So then I can take a little bit of this cylinder in here. This goes back here, so the cylinder is here. Then I kind of make an angled cut to right there. And let me get rid of this and kind of see what I've got going on here. Okay, so this side is correct, and I still need to kind of figure out the bottom here. So then what I'm gonna do is on the edge of the cylinder, I just need to make a little slice into right there. And I take out this guideline. Okay, does it look like it's kind of connected now? Okay, shading would help that too, all right? So if you tried and got it, great. If you tried and it was pretty difficult for you, that's okay, all right? Okay, so I want to go ahead and take a break from drawing forms. We're going to come back to it a little bit, but we're going to work on some value here first. So I'm kind of, in last class, we kind of went through how to like draw bottles and like how do we draw from this. I'm going to come back to it because I just want to give a change of pace. So you need your worksheet and you need your 4B pencil.